I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, May the 14th. And step back, non-believers. Trump has really taken on, he might have bitten off as much as he can possibly chew, but taking on this China trade deal is as big as trying to make it rain. And we've got a lot of non-believers. As soon as we come out this week after the China trade negotiations broke down and he put in the tariffs, and then we got news that China was going to retaliate with additional tariffs of their own. This is a big battle, but we have no non-believers in the investments, as everybody's just is just bailing on the grains, bailing on anything agriculture, bailing on the stock market. These are the same people that just a few weeks ago were jumping all over hogs, thinking that the African swine fever that they have in China was going to eliminate their hog herd, and they were going to be needing protein. And so these people are wanting to make money on investing on other people's misfortune, and now it's the United States in the trade negotiations. They don't have any confidence in Trump being able to get this handled. They want to try to make a dime speculating on all these markets going down. We're definitely not going to hear any true stories about the hog deal in China now. They're not going to tip their hand. We're talking about a dictatorship there. And I continue to say they need us more than we need them. Yeah, they can sew t-shirts together for a little of nothing and make tennis shoes and knickknacks, patty whacks and widgets and everything. They can make them for nothing because they don't pay their people anything. It's all state owned, and they have to have us. Yes, we do make money selling the raw materials to China so that they can make them and then send them right back to us. The problem with China is they have no middle class. We have people over here, the average household making, over $70,000 a year, living in a 3-bedroom home, 2-bath, driving almost 2 cars. China, no middle class. They're not buying those products that much from us, just the raw materials. They're suffering over there, but the government, of course, doesn't care. The Chinese society, there's 3 generations living in a 1-bedroom apartment. They've got a wore-out bicycle and a half a can of rice, if they're lucky. So we're not going to be selling them a whole lot of things other than raw materials. Yes, it's going to hurt a little bit, and it's going to hurt your ag people the most. They're the ones that make the raw materials. And I think the biggest part of the farming and ag community is hanging with Trump. They know that something's got to be done at some point. Growing row crops has not been profitable for several years, and we've got to get something done there. And Trump even come out and said with the tariff money that he was going to spend as much or more as China has been buying ag products and sending them to people that really need it. But the markets did not pay any attention to that at all. You look at the board on Monday, June live cattle was down $2.70. China hasn't been buying any meat from us anyway, any beef. They ganged all over the cattle board. That makes no sense. And then they ganged all over the grains too. If grains are cheaper, that's good for cattle, right? But it doesn't make any sense. Live cattle futures down 270, 109.75, under 110 for just June, guys. That's horrible. August live cattle down $1.97 at 106.92. Your feeder cattle, May feeder cattle. How many feeder cattle we've been shipping to China? 0. Down 257 for your May feeder cattle, 135.05. August down 372 at 143.10. This makes no sense to jump all over the cattle, but anytime it's ag and then all your funds get to shorten things, they just dogpile everything agriculture. And that's what they did on Monday. Most of your hogs were down the limit, of course. Most of your contracts of hogs down the limit because we know we're not going to hear any truthful news about that hog famine over there now. and we won't be sending them any of our protein. Even if they do run completely out of pork, they'll be finding it in other places, but we'll fill in around it, guys. We still do business with a lot of places. Your beans were down big. It's all about the beans. Beans were down 6 cents, but they're going to run out of market to take these beans down if they just keep whittling on it. But Trump said they were going to come in with tariff money and buy beans to send to places that really need stuff like that. Like I said, your stock market was down big. About the only thing I saw that was higher was Beyond Meat fake beef was up 5% after the IPO they had there a while back. But you look at your crop progress report that came out. Your corn planting, with all the wet weather we've had and the floods everywhere all spring, your corn planting is 30% done. That compares with 59% at this time a year ago and 66% this time the 5-year average. So you would think that would support your grains. And actually your corn wasn't any lower. It was about steady, maybe up just a smidgen there. But you know, just all your speculators are just going to dogpile on this deal till something turns around. But like we always say, when you see markets get real volatile and going one way a long ways, there's opportunity in there somewhere, guys. Your weighted average on last week's fat cattle trade on 112,300 head in your 5-area feeding region, still not as much as the same week a year ago, and we continue to not be able to meet the same amount of volume in your 5-area feeding region as a year ago on the same week. But a year ago we had 119,400 head. So our negotiated trade continues to get smaller and smaller all the time. But your weighted average price on live steers in the 5-area feeding region, $120.34, down $3.42 compared to the previous week. Your heifers were under 120, $119.95 on your weighted average on live heifers. Dressed steers, your weighted average there in the 5-area, $192.14, down $6.78. Nationwide, negotiated, they sold 130,400 head when you take in the West Coast and the East Coast and all the parts in between. 31% of those total sales in nationwide of that 130,400 were for the 15 to 30 day delivery. These packers are lining up, and I tell you what, they are going to be tough to trade with, especially when you got your basis jumpers just diving at prices all over. We saw a little bit of trade at 185 on Monday there, just people jumping and diving, trying to take advantage of the little bit of basis they have to help them show a profit. But like I said, the problem is we continue to lose market position as we do that. But 40,600 head for the 15 to 30 day delivery, and they're just keeping that lined up where they have their needs pretty much filled. They just fill in around it with basis jumpers and guys that are really wanting to try to dig in and hold some kind of a market for their negotiated sales. They're just left holding the bag. And it's going to get worse as we get into this summer, as we have market-ready cattle supplies going to swell. So many cattle were put on that's going to come out right in the heat of the summer, and those cattle had it rough whenever they went in. But July contract deliveries are already up 145% compared to total July deliveries last year. August is up 155%. So you think these packers aren't going to be tough to trade with, even though they are higher on their slaughter levels than what we saw last year, and really doing it at a pretty good clip. But let's look at your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index Monday late, 133.40, down another 88 cents. Look at your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, only 5,200 head. Light receipts. You can't blame guys for not wanting to sell their cattle when this market really doesn't have a bottom to it right now. Not to say that it's going to get any better, but it just doesn't make guys really want to load cattle up and take them to the sale when they know damn well that the market's going to be lower. Oklahoma City feeder steers over 700 pounds, steady to $2 lower. Feeder heifers were unevenly steady, and actually your calves sold pretty well, but on a light test in Oklahoma City, steady to $4 higher, as there are a lot of grass traps that still need to be filled, even though our major grazing areas have already been stocked, and those cattle will be locked up in there till at least midsummer on through early fall. Joplin Regional Stockyards, only 3,600 head there in Joplin. Feeder cattle there, steers and heifers both, steady to $3 lower. Steer calves $2 to $4 lower. Heifer calves unevenly steady. You look at the biggest string that we had on Monday was in Joplin. Actually a pretty good market on commodity cattle there. 240 head in one whack out of Joplin, 758 pounds at 139, and that's a pretty respectable quote. Russell, Iowa, had a pretty decent sale. They're kind of on an every 2-week deal right now, but around 2,500 head that I saw on the Cattle Market Central market report. Compared to 2 weeks ago, your calves were only $2 or $3 lower, but your feeders were sharply lower, although they did not have a good test of them either. The Iowegians, people in the Midwest, they're not excited about putting their cattle into the sale barn on a market they know is going to be sharply lower too. But look at this Cattle Market Central market report. You can see the weighted averages on the different weight groups. Only your best tested was just in your calves, but on your 5-weight steer calves, 363 head of them averaged 553 at 171.34 on the weighted average price. And compare that to 2 weeks ago, that was about $1.50 lower is all. 314 head of 6-weight steers in Russell averaged 650 pounds on the dot with a weighted average price of $156.33, which is still pretty good, but that was $3 lower than 2 weeks ago. And you remember they had some big long strings that sold awful well there 2 weeks ago in your 6-weight category. But look at some big steers, big feeding steers out of Russell, and they're obviously going to be lower, but 62 head of 951 pound steers in Russell bring 127.10. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.